So we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm Dr. Rougeau. I teach 1302, 2322. I teach upper level linguistics classes. I teach graduate courses. I am the assistant director of composition, so I wear many hats. And part of my job at this university is to engage in academic arguments at every level. So what we're going to talk about today is your next writing assignment, the argument research paper. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to cover a lot today. And I have this for this morning. If we can't get through this agenda this morning, then after lunch we're going to finish up, and then you guys will have to do the library research on your own. But we're going to start off with talking about the components of an argument, what we're looking for in a research argument. We're going to define an arguable topic. We're going to create an argumentative topic. You are going to walk away from this workshop today with a working thesis for your argument paper. You're going to identify what information you need to research. And basically, by the end, you are going to have pretty much your topic proposal completed, which puts you ahead of everyone else because that assignment's not due till next week. So we've got lots to do. I'm going to ask that if you have questions, you raise your hand. We'll address them as you have questions. Please don't talk when I'm talking. That just is really hard for me to concentrate. So if you have questions, raise your hand. I'll be happy to address those. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so read this nice little cartoon. Your argument is invalid. So's your mama. Is that an argument? Is that an argument? Why not? Huh? There's no point. What does a successful argument have to have? Well, more than that. We get one side here, right? Your argument is invalid. You have to have two sides. You have to have two positions to have an academic argument. You also have to have many other components, and we'll talk about that in a second. Before we get too far, though, I do want us to look at your research paper assignment. One of the most famous types of college papers is the research argument. You may be familiar with other terms for this assignment, the term paper, the documented essay. You all did the documented essay last semester, right? 1301. Argumentative essay. But regardless, this type of essay requires the writer to enter into an established argument and to choose one side based on academic research. Okay, Ms. Steve is back. If you do not have pen and paper, please raise your hand and I'll keep going. Raise your hand high so she can see you. Higher. Lift it up. There you go. That way she can see you. From this point on, you're going to be working towards the research argument paper. In the research process, you're going to choose a suitable topic, refine it into a research question, and use a search strategy to find and evaluate sources and take notes. You will then integrate the sources into your research paper by quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing to support one side of the argument. The next few assignments that will be assigned in 1302 are linked to the research paper. So this week, you have an assignment, and it's what is your general feelings about a research argument. So you're going to just write out your feelings, put it in your discussion board, and you'll learn that your feelings might be shared across your entire class. Okay? And I know in my class section, I'm going to address those issues with you guys. Okay? It doesn't have to be a scary thing, but we'll talk about that in a second. So you're writing an essay that argues a position on an issue that has two distinct sides. It's not only two distinct sides, but for it to be an academic argument, something has to be at stake, okay? To decide one way or another is going to put the community into a certain position. So when you are thinking about the academic argument, it has to be much more than arguing with your parents to give you the keys to the car, to give you gas money, right? It has to be something that has an impact on the larger community if it is decided one way or the other. So your job is to figure out what's at stake if your audience accepts your position over another position, okay? So, write an essay that argues a position on an issue that has two distinct sides. You have to examine both sides of the argument. You have to look at what are the reasons for your position, what are the reasons for the opposition's position, and then you have to explain why the opposition's position is weak. Okay, so there are several steps in completing an argument. The objective of the essay is to convince those who disagree with you that they must take seriously the arguments you raise. Furthermore, you're going to illustrate parts of your argument with a visual. The visual is a TEKS component. It can be a chart, but it has to be something you create. It cannot be something you pull off the internet. It can be a photograph that you take, but it has to be your original work, okay? A graph, an illustration, a chart. You want to do a comic? You can do a comic, whatever, but it has to be a visual, and it comes at the end of your document, okay? You get to choose your topic. You're going to be working with these topics for several weeks, so you will need to choose something that you're interested in, and I'll talk about that in a second. Stay away from overworked issues. What I mean by this is I have seen way too many essays on the drinking age, okay? That's done. They're not changing that law anytime soon, okay? AIDS, college pregnancy, euthanasia, those are overworked topics. So you guys will have to come up with an original topic, okay? And we'll workshop that. Do you have any topics that you want people to stay away from?
Let me think. Something that's overworked. We got the big ones up there. Abortion, age, pregnancy, college pregnancy, euthanasia.
So check with your instructor. Make sure that your individual instructors don't have further restrictions, okay? If you can't think of a topic, try and stay at the local or state level. Trying to cover a national topic is really too large for the scope of this paper. So we're going to talk about in a second how to create a workable topic. So let's go down here, 8 to 10 pages. You're writing this on your own. I will give you a formula at the end of this workshop to show you how you can easily make the 8 to 10 page requirements. The format of the paper should follow MLA style, which can be found in your handbook. You can also go back to Unit 2 and look at MLA. But you will have to do research. So you are going to have to document in-text citations, works cited entries, okay? Everything has to follow MLA style. Furthermore, you have source requirements. You have to have 4 cited sources. You have to have 2 academic books. These can be ebooks, that's fine. 1 academic article and 1 academic internet source. Next week, we are going to be doing an exercise in the course where you learn how to evaluate websites for being academic. We all know Wikipedia is not an academic source. Why not?
Because anyone can go change it.
Anyone can change a Wikipedia article. However, it's a good place to start your research because sometimes they do have a nice bibliography. So you can start your research, but you cannot cite Wikipedia as your source. It is not a valid source. Again, we're going to do an exercise next week on how to look at how to evaluate websites to determine if they're academic. Your academic article and your 2 academic books you'll find in the library, okay? Last semester, you guys learned how to research using Falcon Finder, the UT-PB library webpage. Anything that you find on Falcon Finder is an academic source, okay? Are there any questions so far? The audience for this paper, we talked about at the workshop in February that the average college student is your audience. For this paper, it's anyone who would oppose your argument. So you're trying to convince the opposition. That means it can be any age group. So you still have to worry about appealing to a large audience. But you're really looking at trying to convince someone to accept your position if they're already on the opposition side. So, pre-writing activities, you're going to have several pre-writing activities. We're going to talk about, we're going to do a topic workshop today, so you don't have to worry about that. Basically today, you're going to take care of your pre-writing activities. You're going to flesh out your argument today. You will have a topic proposal due. Again, by the end of the workshop today, you'll basically have your topic proposal completed, okay? It has 4 parts: the significance of the topic, the 2 sides of the argument, explaining your position, the type of research you plan to complete. Okay, research. Again, you guys did a lot of research in 1301. You're going to use those same strategies to find your sources for this paper. Okay, so UT-PB has spring break, week 9.
Week 9.
We do expect you guys to use that time to do your research. When you come back from spring break, you will have an annotated bibliography. You need to have your 4 source requirements by that time. So when is that annotated bibliography due?
The Saturday after we come back from spring break.
Okay, so you will have to have those 4 sources. I think in my class it's going to be a little bit earlier. So you have to have your 2 books, you have to have your article, and you have to have your website. An annotated bibliography is a works cited page for those sources, and then a short summary showing me that you've already looked at them. Okay?
About 3 to 4 sentences.
Yeah, very short. Okay. So here's a sample works cited entry. Here is my entry. It was a chapter in a book, and apparently it's gotten messed up, and I've got to fix it because everything is in has parentheses, commas. So this is the old MLA style. We do need to update that. Make it there. And then you'll see immediately after my entry, I have a summary of that specific source. Okay. So focus and organization, again, for the entire paper, it is a position argument. You are arguing your position, and you do need a visual component at the end of your essay. Okay. Grading, we have our rubrics posted. Go and look at the rubric for the assignment, but it's very simple. We always look at content, organization, grammar, mechanics. We will be looking at documentation as well, and the incorporation of your sources. Don't feel overwhelmed at this time. We will be taking this assignment in stages, so just if you meet each stage requirement, you'll easily handle this project, okay? We're not going to worry about that. So, okay, questions?
Yes.
You stated that you wanted the visual to be at the end of our paper. Is it okay to put it in the middle of the paper and feel it's appropriate to place it there?
What you want to do is instead put C figure whatever, and then have it at the end of your document. So if you want it tied into your argument, just refer to it, and then we know to look at that last page. Okay? That way, it's kind of helping us so that I can make sure you've given me 8 pages of text and not 1 whole page of, a filler, because that will not count. You will lose points if you do that. Okay? So let's empty our plates. This is a stressful argument, a stressful assignment. So I want you to partner up in 30 seconds. So decide who's going to go first. The first person is going to answer these questions. Talk to the person next to you. What do you fear most about the argumentative essay? What else is on your plate that might affect you completing this assignment, and how can you balance your plate to complete the assignment? So turn to your partner. Turn to your partner. Okay, ready? 30 seconds, go. Okay, and stop. Okay, second person, 30 seconds. Paraphrase what you just heard. Say it back to that person. Ready? Go. Okay, stop. Now, offer solutions to help that person balance their plate. 30 seconds. Ready? Now, go. Let's switch it. Second person. What do you fear most about the argument? What else is on your plate? And how can you balance your plate? So second person, it's your turn to talk. Go. Okay? So first person, paraphrase what the second person said. Go. And now offer solution to help the second person balance their plate. Okay, so what are some of the issues? What makes writing a paper difficult? What are some other outside issues that affect us? High school? High school's big. High school will affect you, but what specifically? Sports? What else? Extracurriculars? Jobs? Okay. Anything else? So how do you balance your plate? What do you do? What are some suggestions? How do you balance your plate? Say it.
Set up a schedule.
Set up a schedule. You need to have a set time. Now, you all guys have a set time, right, to work on this class? So how long do you typically have? 50 minutes just dedicated to this class? Okay, that's pretty good. How many times a week? 5 every day? Okay, so you have roughly 5 hours, a little bit less. That's really not bad to be able to dedicate to the research project, okay? I would also say extend to Saturday as well. And you should be able to manage this project fairly well. Now that means as soon as you get in the classroom, you get that computer on and you work. You do your research, you write, you free write. If an idea comes to you throughout the day, write it down on paper. Have a notebook with you while you're working on this project. That notebook should contain your notes for your research. It should contain your ideas for the paper. I have had, that moment when you're about to drift off to sleep and every single idea comes into your head. You have to wake yourself up because those are your best ideas. That's when your brain is finally unwinding. That's when you're most creative. Wake yourself up, keep a notebook next to your bed, and write what you think of at that moment, okay? What did I say, 7 weeks, 6 weeks working on this project? You can do that for 6 weeks, okay? And then after this project, we are moving into a fun paper. I think it's a fun paper. It's a gender paper. It's not going to take you any time at all to write that paper, but for 6 weeks, dedicate to working on this paper. You can do it. Now, I know playoffs come. I know UT-PB is in our basketball playoffs right now. Those college players have to keep up with their classwork even though they're at playoffs. That's an expectation. That's just part of college life. So 50 minutes a day, you guys can do this. And you just have to stay focused.
They have to turn in their work before they go to these sports events too. All right? It's not just you guys that have to do that. It's all of them.
Now, we do have spring break. I know that's a time to relax, but in the college world, it really isn't. It just means that you don't have to go to classes, so that gives you a little bit more time. So during spring break, same thing, 50 minutes a day, okay? Dedicate to finishing up this paper. You guys can do it. I've told you that. You guys are extraordinary. You are a wonderful group because of what you can achieve. So keep going with that. You can do it. Okay, so as I said, we're going to take the argumentative essay in stages. So week 8, you have your topic proposal due. You're going to finish up But basically, I'm going to give you that time to write it today. So you'll have your idea, you'll absolutely have your outline completed by the end of the day today. Week 9, spring break research. How many of you have computer access at home? How many of you have smartphones? Okay, you should be able to complete it. If you don't have computer access at home, go to a library. All public libraries have computer access that you can use, okay? When you come back, your annotated bibliography is due, but that is the week that you should be writing your draft. Because week 11, you're gonna post your draft and you're gonna peer review each other's drafts. For my students, you guys are gonna be put into groups according to your topics, and you're going to peer review like topic papers, okay? Week 12, you're gonna revise and you're gonna submit your final draft. So I said 6 weeks, we have 5 weeks. But still, that's over a month that you get to work on this project. So take it in stages. Don't try to do everything the day before the deadline. Just take it in stages, and if you take it in stages, you won't be so rushed in that last week, okay? Okay, so the components of an argument. You have to have two or more, you have to have an arguable topic. So we already said, an argument has 2 or more distinct positions, and something is at stake if the argument is decided one way or another. You have to have reasons. So you have to have at least 3 reasons supporting your position. What we mean by reasons are subcategories of your argument, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Okay. For each of your reasons, you need to find evidence to support, to explain that reason, okay? This is where your research is going to come in. This is how you're going to establish your credibility that you know what you're talking about because you have researched each of those reasons, and you're going to present, you're going to incorporate a source to help explain that reason. Once you establish your position, you do the same thing with your argument. So, with your opposition, sorry. So your opposition, explain their 3 reasons, and then give evidence for why they believe what they believe, okay? Because they're stupid is not a reason, okay? You have to have valid reasons, valid examples. Once you establish your position and the opposition, you then need to counter-argue. You're going to look at each of the reasons, and you're going to look at the evidence of the opposition, and you're going to explain why it's faulty. What's wrong with their position? Why shouldn't we accept their position? And you're going to what we call counter-argue. Once you counter-argue, you've established that your position is the stronger position, and therefore everyone needs to accept your position. You're going to make a call to action based on what's at stake. If we accept your position, what is the next movement for the community? What do we need to do as a result of establishing your argument? This is what I call the so what question. So what? Why are you making this argument? You have to have a reason for making the argument. What's at stake? What's the larger issue? You have to explain, you have to base it on what's going on in society that makes this an important issue to answer. You'll do all of that at the beginning of your essay, and I'll talk about that when we talk about how we're going to organize the essay. Okay, now you can change it. Okay, so let's look at the following topics. Security in schools, animal rights, death penalty, abortion. Are these arguments?
Yes.
Why are they not arguments?
Because there's no subject. If you were to say, like, is abortion right? That would be.
Okay, so as it's stated, these are not arguments. They have potential to be arguments, you're right. They do. But as they're stated, these are just broad categories. I could just write the history of security in schools. That's not going to be an argument. That's going to be an explanatory paper. I can talk about the cause and effects of animal rights. That's not necessarily an argument. That can just be a fact paper. I can talk about the procedure for an abortion. That is not an argument. That is a procedure paper. So, how do we revise them to make them arguable? Okay, go back. So, what kind of argument can we make for security in schools?
Is security in schools
Okay, are schools secure enough? Now, let's start with that one. Are schools secure enough? Now, that is an argument because we do have two positions. Yes, no. Okay, yes, no. We want to try and come up with an argument that goes beyond the yes, no question. So how would we revise it so that it would be more than just yes, no? Do we need to increase the security in schools? Okay, that's still a yes, no, but it's pushing us towards more of an argument. Now, that's still a little too broad for this paper, because what schools are we talking about? Are we talking about across the United States? Is that feasible? Do we have control across the United States? Not really. How would we narrow it down? Okay, schools in West Texas, that's still pretty broad. You could even be even more specific and,
Public or private schools.
okay, and go even more specific. Odessa schools, Rankin schools, Wink schools. Okay, you see where I'm getting? You want to make this manageable. For this paper, put it on a local level because you will know more about your community and you will be able to have a better impact on your community than if you just say nationwide schools. Do you see where we're going with this? Okay, what about animal rights? What are some issues with animal rights? What are some arguments?
the treatment they get like
In what?
kennels?
In like private kennels? We do experimentation on animals. We do that. We can talk about treatment in like you're talking about private kennels, or you're talking like animal shelters.
Dog catcher type kennels.
Okay, so like animal shelters, we have no-kill shelters versus kill them after a couple of days, right? So we could take that and we can talk about should local legislation govern all animal shelters to be no-kill shelters, right? So we're getting more specific. Okay, now these two I threw in there because it was late and I was trying to think of topics and I was really tired. But you're not allowed to write on the last two, so. But we'll just kind of death penalty. Should the state of Texas abolish the death penalty? Should the state of Texas abolish abortion? Okay, those are the kinds of issues. When you're creating an arguable topic, you want to do more than use a yes, no. You want to go and try and phrase it as a should question. And if you can phrase your topic as a should question, most likely you will have an arguable topic.
Can I add something to that real quick?
Yes.
Be careful. I know for my students, I would prefer you stay away from right, wrong, because
I was
those.
getting to that.
Okay, yeah, those. I mean, you're getting into topics that you're going to start talking about ethics, and it's really hard to find the right kind of solid research that you need to support those claims. So stay away from right, wrong too.
That's one of the reasons why I tell my freshmen to stay away from abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I get is abortion right or wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're going to start getting into religion, right? And what is life? Well, can you tell someone that their religion is wrong? No, because it's their belief, it's their values. When you start telling people what they should believe or how they should feel, then you're kind of crossing the boundary and you're going to lose your argument. So if you can make it about legislation or place it within a legal context, then you'll have a much stronger, and you'll stay away from those issues where you could get yourself into a lot of trouble without meaning to, okay? So we're gonna watch those, I'm going to say no ethical arguments. And ethics means, is something right or wrong, okay? But you can change it and simply argue law, because we have law established. Okay, so we already revised them, go ahead. So security in schools becomes, should UTPB increase security against deadly weapons on campus? Okay, animal rights, should the FDA provide stricter restrictions for ethical treatment of food animals? Death penalty, should the state of Texas do away with the death penalty? Abortion, should the state of Texas redefine the definition of a fetus to abolish abortion? So look at how I revised those so that they're staying away from those ethical issues. One of the most important lessons you need to take away from this workshop today is to choose a topic that in which you are personally interested, okay? 5 weeks is a long time to work with a topic that you do not like. So choose a subject area that is intriguing to you. Choose something either that you do extracurricularly or a field that you want to go into, and try and find arguments within those areas just to help you to explore something that you really like, okay? So, topic workshop. So with your papers, I want you to, I don't think we need 5 minutes, I'll say a minute. I want you to come up with 3 broad categories of topics that you're interested in exploring. Sports, that's one that students always like to gravitate to. Law, government, academics, cars. I had a really great argument on car transmissions. So think outside the box. So 1 minute. All I want is one word, a topic area, topic subject that you are interested in, okay? So we don't need to talk, 1 minute, go. Okay, so get into groups. I want you to share your areas, and as a group, go one by one. So let's say like 3 people in a group. Come up with your likes and your dislikes in each category. Take notes as your group discusses each category. For example, if I put gun control as one of my subjects, like, at UTPB, faculty and students are able to carry concealed guns on campus now. That kind of is a secure idea. Dislikes, some students can carry guns on campus, okay? That concerns me as well. So, I want you to do something very simple, okay? So for each of the category, each subject in your group, come up with a like and a dislike, okay? So 10 minutes, go ahead. Now, you should have likes and dislikes. This is a pre-writing. We can easily change those topics to one position, opposition, right? Okay, your position, what the opposition has to say. So, next. This is individual. Look at your list. Look at your likes and dislikes. Which, either or, is there one that stands out to you? Okay? Brainstorm for 5 minutes. Now, brainstorm, the rules of brainstorm are very clear. You write nonstop for 5 minutes. Okay? You look at, why do you like this topic? Which topic do you like? Why do you like that topic? If you were to turn it into an argument, what might you have to say about it? So 5 minutes, you're going to write nonstop. This is not talking, this is simply writing. If you get stuck, just write, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to say, and then answer the question, why don't I know what to say? What am I stuck on? And go from there. But the exercise is simply to get all the words on paper. You're not worrying about grammar. You're not worrying about sentences. You can write in fragments. I don't care, as long as you just write nonstop 5 minutes. Are you ready?
Which means no talking.
You don't need to talk. This is an individual assignment. So, ready? I'm going to eventually get there. Hold on. And the purpose of this assignment was simply to get the thoughts out. And I hope that some of you were able to come up with a topic. So look at your writing. Look at that topic. What do you know about this subject already? Is there a current issue? Now this is key. Is there something that is happening right now, either in your community, in the news, that is tied to this topic? Because that is going to be your jumping off point. That's going to be your so what. This is a recent issue, and if we solve this problem, this is how that issue is going to be resolved. Okay? And then what is at stake if this issue is resolved one way or another? So, again, 5 minutes. Answer, brainstorm. Answer each of those questions. What do you know? Is there a current issue? If not, where are you going to go to look for that issue? What are you going to look up? And then what is at stake if that issue is resolved? So again, another 5 minutes, and start now. What do you know about this subject? So you should have a general topic, either a like or a dislike from our earlier workshop. Brainstorm, 5 minutes. What do you know about this subject? Is there a current issue that is related to the topic? Is there something that's happened in the news or something that's happened in your community that sparks your interest in this subject? And what is at stake? If you created an argument, what is at stake? If this issue is resolved one way or another, if it's resolved for your position, what's at stake? If it's resolved for the opposition, what's at stake? Okay, 5 minutes, just brainstorm. If you don't know, right, I don't know, this is what I have to look up and make a list. Use your brainstorm right now to do that. Okay, so who thinks that they have a good topic? Who wants to share? And we've looked at how they created a spin on the tree, is what you said.
I would like to say something about current events. If you do a current event that's happening now, you're not going to be able to find scholarly sources on it, because the scholarly sources will take at least a year to be written and analyzed and published. So I think you probably don't want to pick something that's in the news now.
What we're going to do, though, is yes, while you're not going to argue that event, you're going to argue the larger issue at stake. You're going to use that event as your jumping off point to look at what is the basic argument underneath. So if you talk about Trump's censorship of media, or his wanting to censor media, what you're really talking about is, can media be censored? Okay? So that's what when I say look at a current issue, use that as your frame for your argument. That's the starting point. Okay? And then get to the underlying argument. What is at stake? What's the basic argument that we're talking about? And then you come back to that news article, that news story at the very end of your essay for your call to action. Okay? Well, it sounds like you guys are on the right track. So I don't know why you don't want to share your topics. Y'all sound like, and I've walked around. So be more confident in yourselves. You've got it. You've got it. Okay. So you have a general topic. What now? Your topic proposal. You guys have come up with it in the matter of an hour, or less than an hour. You've come up with a possible topic for your argumentative essay. So your argumentative essay has 4 points. And I'm sorry, these are what I usually tell my students, but you're going to go by those questions in our paper. So let me pull those up. Okay, so for my students, guys, all I want is one document and a paragraph for each of these. I want to be able to know that your first paragraph addresses what is the significance of this topic. What do you already know about the history of the topic's effects, what's at stake, okay? That's where you can put in, here's what currently happened, this is the underlying argument. The second paragraph, what are the two sides of the argument? Identify the two sides of the argument. Where are you positioning yourself in the argument? For my students, for the sake of this assignment, keep it simple and just choose one side or the other. In your call to action, if you feel that you would take a middle ground, you can establish that, but argue one side or the other, okay? I think it'll be easier. When you get into your next classes, you can take that middle road because you'll have more time to define it. But try and keep it simple, one position or another, okay? Explain, third paragraph, explain your position. What are the 3 reasons that are going to support why we should accept your position, okay? We need logic. You've already talked about, you've already read about how to establish an argument, how to include logic. Watch those logical fallacies, okay? And then the last paragraph, what type of research do you plan to complete? Do not say, I'm going to go to the library. No, duh. That's where I'm sending you. Where in the library are you going to find? Where are you going to go? What specific databases are you going to look at? What specific books? So this is where you just do a simple search. In the Duncan Library, using Falcon Finder, I located this article. It shows promise in that it looks like it's going to cover my opposition. If you know specific magazines or newspapers that you're going to look at, list those. But I want specifics. I don't want, I'm going to go in the library and look at books and look at articles. Be specific. Tell me what databases you're going to look at. If you're going to look at websites, what specific websites are you going to look at? What specific books? And try and locate 1 or 2. You should probably include key terms. What key terms are you going to use to search? And we're going to do an exercise on developing key terms for your topic. Okay? So 4 paragraphs. Significance of topic, defining the 2 sides of the argument, explaining your position, giving me a brief summary of your 3 reasons, and where you expect to find your research. This is your pre-writing. This is the beginning of your argument. You may take parts of this topic proposal and use it in your essay. Okay, so you're starting to write it now. Give it your effort, okay? Questions?
I just want to warn you, don't use procon.org. It's not a scholarly site. You may go on there to get ideas, but don't use that as one of your sources. Or does anyone come up with any other of those kind of websites that people tend to cite that aren't appropriate?
Well, I mean, we mentioned Wikipedia and things like that. I've never heard of Procon.
Oh, now I've heard in my head. But anyway, don't use that.
Okay, so you have 4 parts. You need to answer all of those parts. That is due next week. Okay, where are we in terms of time? Okay, so let's create a working thesis. So I want to show you this video.
Most of the factors that predict whether or not something that is being perceived will also be remembered operate in the first few seconds of learning. One of these factors involves something termed a schema, and whether or not the new learning bumps into one. Let me show you an example of a schema by having Dr. Whitehead and myself read a paragraph to you, one actually taken from a famous research paper. Your job is to remember as many facts about the paragraph as you can.
Okay, so get ready to
Let me
write.
tell you in advance that you are going to fail miserably at this task unless I do something first. I can instantly improve your memory score from between 50 to 100% simply by adding 7 little words before you hear Dr. Whitehead and myself. But I'm not going to do that. You will hear the paragraph first, then I will read you the words.
The procedure is actually quite simple. First, you arrange things into different groups. Of course, one pile may be sufficient depending on how much there is to do.
If you have to go somewhere else due to lack of facilities, that is the next step. Otherwise, you are pretty well set. It is important not to overdo things. That is, it is better to do too few things at once than too many.
In a short term, this might not seem important, but complications can easily arise. A mistake can be expensive as well.
After the procedure is completed, one arranges the materials into different groups again. Then they can be put into their appropriate places.
Eventually, they'll be used once more in the whole cycle that have to be repeated. However, that is a part of life.
Okay, what was that about? Procedures and groups, what else? What was it about? What was it about? Come on. It might be procedures, it might be about groups. What kind of procedure? How many of you are so completely clueless? Oh, raise your hand, everyone. Okay. Why is this hard to understand? Oh, the accent, but get beyond the accent. There's no introduction. There's no point. We don't know what is the unifying idea, okay? So, what if I tell you this is about washing clothes? Now listen to it. We're going to start over.
Whether or not something that is being perceived will also be remembered, operate schema. And let me show you read a paragraph. Your job is to remember as many facts about the paragraph as you can. Let me tell you in advance that you are going to fail miserably at this task unless
It's
I do
about
something
washing
first.
clothes, so
I
listen
can
to it.
instantly improve your memory score from between 50 to 100% simply by adding 7 little words before you hear Dr. Whitehead and myself. But I'm not going to do that. Read you the words.
The procedure is actually quite simple. First, you arrange things into different groups. Of course, one pile may be sufficient depending on how much there is to do.
If you have to go somewhere else due to lack of facilities, that is the next step. Otherwise, you are pretty well set. It is important not to overdo things. That is, it is better to do too few things at once than too many.
In the short term, this might not seem important, but complications can easily arise. A mistake can be expensive as well.
After the procedure is completed, one arranges the materials into different groups again. Then they can be put into their appropriate places.
Eventually, they'll be used once more in the whole cycle that have to be repeated. However, that is a part of life.
Okay. So, what are we talking about? Washing clothes. So, what is the procedure? Separate them into piles, and then if you have a little bit, you might be able to do one pile. And if you don't have facilities, you go somewhere else. So wash area or something. And then what do? Then you fold them and you put them in there. Or if you're like my daughter, you throw them on the floor in your room, right? And then the whole process repeats because clothes get dirty and they repeat. Okay, so what does this have to do with argument?
Good introduction.
How does this apply to writing an argument? You need an introduction that clues us in to what we are reading. You need a thesis. You need to let us know right off the bat, one should not censor media, okay? Or there should be legislation established to include more LGBT characters in television shows, or UT-PB should have stricter security for deadly weapons. Okay, those are statements. So what, at this point, you need to create a working thesis. Something that is simply for you to establish your position, but enough that we know what your main argument is going to be. So, yeah, about 5 minutes. I want you to look at the argument that you have started writing about, and I want you to create a working thesis. If you don't have a working thesis, I will not be able to understand your argument. I will not be able to understand your specific position, okay? So, roundabout way, a thesis is the unifying scheme for your argumentative essay, okay? So 5 minutes, work on writing a statement, a working thesis statement, not a should question, but a statement, so a sentence. I want you to share your statement with the person next to you. As the peer reviewer, do you understand what the argument is? If you do, then the statement is fine. If you don't, I want you to help the person revise. So about a minute. Let's go ahead and stop right now. So does everyone have the beginnings of a working thesis? Who's still struggling with their working thesis? Okay, we'll talk. I'll talk. Okay, so hold on to these. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna have lunch. So let's talk about where we have, before I dismiss you, what we've done so far. We've looked at the components of an argument, what it means to have an arguable thesis, and you guys came up with essentially two positions of an argument, and you ended with creating a thesis that you can work from for the next stage. We've talked about topic proposals, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in depth this afternoon. So, okay, what we're going to do next is, I know that there was promise of an Ash Wednesday Mass. That has been moved to this afternoon, so everyone will be going from here to the Science and Technology Building, the Cooper Lecture Lab. That's ST 1010, right? We are going to feed you guys pizza, and our very own Miss Kristen Figgins is going to present to you guys on publishing, creative writing, grant writing. Right now it is 11:45. Take this time. If you need to go to the restroom, they're right around the corner over here. If you want to do a Starbucks run very quickly, you can go to Starbucks and then meet us. You have to be in Cooper Lecture Hall, so walk straight across, okay?
If anybody wants to go now, like they can follow us.
Right, we're walking over there right now.